Welcome everybody, I'm a music nerd here, back with another tier list. This time I'm going to be covering the All-American boy band Brockhampton, and since they just released their new album last Friday, I figured this is the perfect time to do a tier list of their discography. Not a very long discography, but a very interesting one. Brockhampton, probably one of the hottest hip hop groups right now, and you know their style can range from indie pop to you know bombastic hip hop to experimental. I mean, they cover really all the bases. So I just wanted to rank which are some of my favorite to least favorite albums in their discography. But as always, if you enjoy the content on this channel, if you want to show your support, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below if you're a return subscriber, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. Alright, so let's get into it. So, starting out with the Saturation albums, Saturation 1, which came out in 2017. I can't believe it's been 4 years already. Yeah, we're all getting old. 2017 seems like a century ago. Yeah, this is their first album, and this is really what put them on the map. Um, Brockhampton kind of, a lot of people have said this, they're a spiritual successor to Odd Future, groups like Wu-Tang Clan. But I think Brockhampton, what has always been great about them is that they have, their chemistry between, there's like 10 to 15 members of the group, and they all sound like a cohesive whole. Now, I will be honest, when I first heard Saturation 1, I didn't like it at all. I just felt like sensory overload. You got like 10 guys like rapping, you don't know which is who. There's like different styles, different sounds. The more I listened to it, the more I kind of warmed up to it. And obviously with the later Saturation albums, I was like, okay, now I understand what they're trying to go for. Some songs here, some of my favorite Brockhampton songs, Gold, Keep a Gold Chain on My Neck. It's a great hook. And Star, comparing himself to celebrities and athletes and all that stuff. Very witty lyricism on this track. But yeah, I think this kind of sets the template of what Brockhampton was going for. A group that will try anything and do anything. I think for Saturation to come out, people were like, all right, this is a nice start, and we'll see where they go from there. But little did we know that when they meant Saturation, they really meant saturation. They were like, no, we're taking over the year. Fuck your plans. We're taking over 2017. I think as far as the debut, it works here. So I'm going to put it in the B tier. The next album, Saturation 2, came out a few months later. And, right off the start with Gummy, pretty much sets the tone. I love Brockhampton. Their openers are really good. And their openers set the tone for the album, which is what I like. I like it when artists, their first track, it sets the tone and knows, all right, this is what you're in for. With Saturation 2, they were kind of crystallizing their sound, saying, all right, Saturation 1, we're seeing what works, what doesn't. Saturation 2 is a more confident Brockhampton, and it got them bigger critical acclaim, kind of let people know that, all right, this is something new here. So I think, Saturation 2, to me, fun listen, doesn't diverge too much from Saturation 1. I think all these Saturation albums kind of have the same kind of theme. We're just here to have fun and just, flex our rapping and our singing. So I think Saturation 2, another impressive song. Saturation 2, another impressive album. So I'm going to put it in the B tier as well. Saturation 3, which came out, at the end of the year, I think is probably their weakest of the Saturation albums. Um, it's still good, but Saturation 3 doesn't have quite the bangers that Saturation 1 and 2 had, doesn't have quite as many memorable tracks. The song Boogie, which is, another great album opener, um, is an incredible song. And it's a different type of sound for Brockhampton. It's kind of like them utilizing, horns, and it sounds like a weird, like circus, carnival s like track. Just like very like off the wall and bombastic. And another song that kind of like is in the same vein as that is Zipper. Just kind of like two very weird experimental tracks for even Brockhampton. But Saturation 3, shows them kind of expanding their range, trying different sounds, different types of production. But for me, it just doesn't have quite, the urgency that Saturation 1 and 2 had. But still, I still think it's pretty decent. I'm going to put it in the C tier, but a strong C plus. Iridescence, which came out a year later in 2018. Now, this to me, kind of is the start of a new era for Brockhampton. Amir Van was fired from the group due to sexual misconduct allegations, and Amir Van, was a beloved member of the group. This move was very controversial because a lot of Brockhampton fans were very split. It's kind of like, if the Beatles just lost Paul McCartney after their third album, it would just kind of be like, wait, what the fuck? Like, but it's a move that obviously had to be done. But it kind of left Brockhampton scrambling to like, all right, like, Saturation albums got us hot, and we signed a new record deal. We have we're in Abbey Road, lots of expectations for us, and I think that kind of hindered the creativity of this album. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad album at all. It's fine. There's some good tracks here. New Orleans is a great album opener. Then there's songs like Where the Cash At, where it's like, that could have been left off the album. It doesn't really have that like urgency to it. I think this is a transitional album. I think it's a group that's just had a horrible, event happen to them, and I think they were just trying to keep up with the Joneses. And you definitely hear that on this album. It feels very rushed. The Saturation albums, although they were diverse, they were very creative. And here, it's kind of like them, just saying, hey, like, this is for our fans. We're seeing what really we can get away with, and it's not as cohesive as the Saturation albums. But it was a success for them, and it went to number one, and it furthered the momentum of Brockhampton, which is what the mission was all along. But for me, I don't really go back to this album as much, so I'm going to put it in the C tier, C minus kind of tier, my least favorite Brockhampton project. The next one, Ginger, which came out a year later, is a different album for Brockhampton. And, while Brockhampton in the past was known as being silly and witty and bombastic, Ginger was very mellow. And it really is, although they say in jest they're the boy band, the all-American boy band, this really does sound like a late 90s, early 2000s kind of a boy band album, like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC 90 Degrees, that type, because it's utilizing more singing, more melody, and The lyrics in this album are very dark, more introspective, talking about real shit. Um, Obviously, the verse that everybody talks about is "Dearly Departed" with Joba, talking about how Amir Van may have helped him get robbed, which is one of the most powerful verses in Brockhampton history. And at the end of that track, he just slams the mic down, and it really like hits you. Um, and there's other songs here like "Sugar," which is a very popular, one of the most popular songs. No Halo, but it's also it's not a completely very mellow album. It has its party tracks too. Boy Bye is a great song. When You Pray Right, or If You Pray Right, right? Kind of it has that like New Orleans, funeral line music type sound, which was I think it's a very fun track as well. But it's also dark. It's probably their most cohesive album. It's for them a more mature effort. In the past 2 years, they definitely a lot of stuff has happened to them, and they're able to kind of. I think this was if Iridescence was kind of like the shock of the storm. This is definitely like the aftermath, like the calm after that crazy tumultuous period in their lives. And it's them saying, all right, we can make it without Amir. Like we can. I think this album and the recording of this album brought them closer together. And watching interviews around this time when they're promoting this album, you can definitely tell that they been through some therapeutic shit, and now they're like, all right, we got that out of the way, and now we're stronger as ever, and let's just catch up our fans on truly what's happening. Because Iridescence, there wasn't enough time. It definitely felt rushed. This Ginger felt like, all right, we're gonna remind our fans, all right, this is what's been going on with us, and this is why we've been going through so much pain and all that stuff. So I think Ginger is a fine album, very very solid album. Um, I'm gonna actually, yeah, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. Um, One of their better albums. And then their latest album that just came out, Roadrunner, I think is probably their best album since the Saturation trilogy. Um, you know, Brockhampton obviously is a group that is keenly aware of what's going on, and I think that, and when I say with that is that after Ginger, now that they kind of got the therapeutic shit out of the way, they're kind of like, all right, let us give our fans what they want, like why they loved us, and so to me, it's kind of combining the fun of the Saturation albums with a little bit of the mellowness of Ginger, because they do talk about some serious stuff. In the song "The Light," um, I think Jobo was talking about uh, dealing with his father's suicide, and it's pretty heavy. And Kevin Abstract talking about dealing with his homosexuality and how can he be confident in living this lifestyle when he's afraid to talk to his parents about it. And so I always loved it when Brockhampton gets into their lives. I mean, of course I love them talking their hip hop shit, flexing, buzz cut, phenomenal track with Danny Brown. If we need more Brockhampton Danny Brown, please. But Danny Brown's always gonna kill it in a guest verse. Second song with JPEG Mafia right off the bat. Danny Brown, JPEG Mafia, two of my favorite rappers right now. Tremendous songs. And then having ASAP Rocky and ASAP Ferg on Bankroll. It's a great but very sinister sounding track. Has a lot of sense to it, but it fits them well because I'm like, how's ASAP Mob and Brockhampton going to work together? And I think it's great because ASAP Mob is another hip hop collective that's very experimental, but also on the mainstream. And Brockhampton is, similar but different. And I think it's great that both of these collectives are like, hey, we can, you know, come together on a track. And I think it sounds great. Even Charlie Wilson coming on in I'll Take You On, it kind of sounds like a house song in a sense, a hip house song, and I think it's I love it. It's Brockhampton kind of delving more into R&B and neo soul a little bit with the help of Charlie Wilson, and you know Roadrunner I think can be kind of described as two sides. The first side is the very the old Brockhampton, the very fun, silly, just hyper hip hop, just typical trap type Brockhampton, and the second is like the newer Brockhampton, the mature, mellow R&B kind of indie pop, because it's definitely. I like the sequencing of this album, and yeah, I mean I've been playing it for the past couple of days, and I think it's an incredible album. I really don't think there's any bad songs here. I know it's recent. Um, you can call me a hype beast. You can call me recency bias, whatever, whatever. I'm gonna put this in the A tier. Let's see. No, no, no. Yeah, it's my favorite Brockhampton project so far. Has everything that was good about the old and saturation era, and everything that was good with the new, ginger era. Um, so yeah, that's my tier list of Brockhampton's discography up to this point. Tell me what you think in the comments section. What are your favorite Brockhampton albums? Least favorite? Tell me what you think about the new album that just came out. YouTube recommends these other two videos to check out to this one. And plus, if you want to check out other tier lists that I've done in the past, there's a whole playlist for that. So check that out on the channel. Done plenty of these and more to come on the way. So love you guys. Until next time, peace.